Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. Pleased as always to have this guy join us. You'll see him on screen momentarily. Parker Hesse, we've had him on as we record this on Tuesday afternoon, December 16th. We're going to take a deep dive into Hawkeye Bowl coverage today, but also talk about what Parker's up to these days. So, Parker, my friend, it is always great to see you. Thanks for joining us, and an early Merry Christmas and an early Happy New Year to you and your family. How's it going, Parker?
Hey, Dave, thanks for having me back. I appreciate it. Happy holidays to you as well.
Yeah, it's going great here. And I'll tell you, we're busy and happy talking bowl coverage here. I told you off the air, let's bring it on the air. Your last game at Iowa was January 1st of 2019 in the Outback Bowl, now called the ReliaQuest Bowl, where you guys won over Mississippi State 27-22. Do you remember that game very well, Parker?
I do. I don't remember the final score. I just remember we had negative yards rushing, and they had an All-American at every level of their defense. We still found a way to beat them that day. So, great way to go out for my career.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you would take us through, of course, Hawks 8-4 this year, 6-3 in the Big Ten, facing a very tough Vanderbilt 10-2 team. Of course, everybody talks about the Heisman Trophy runner-up in Diego Pavia, and they did well in the SEC. 10-2, 13th ranked Hawks, 19th ranked, depending what poll you look at, 19th, and then Vanderbilt's 13th, 14th. Again, 10-2 Vanderbilt, 8-4 Iowa, 11 a.m. kick on December 31st on ESPN, New Year's Eve morning and day. Going to be a good one. Take us through, Parker, if you would, what it's like for bowl prep under Kirk Ferentz as your head coach and the staff as an upperclassman, but also as an underclassman. So take us through both sides, what everybody's going through right now in bowl prep, please, Parker.
Yeah, I mean, early on, so up until this point, I don't know when finals week, they kind of take the week of finals week off for everybody so they can finish up their classes. But early on, up to this point, maybe for another week or two, the guys who played a lot of snaps this fall are kind of resting up. They're working technique, just getting healthy for the final game. The underclassmen who have been playing the scout team, most of the year are getting a lot of live, a lot of physical reps of our offensive and defensive schemes. So it's it's kind of like a mini camp or a mini spring ball if you're an underclassman. But then as you get, within 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks now, but 10 days, 9 days of the bowl game of kickoff, kind of zeroes into a regular game week, and the guys who are playing are taking all the snaps, and it's kind of the regular schedule of padded and non-padded practices.
It's interesting, as we talked about when I said 27-22 and you said I wasn't sure of the score. But yeah, when you guys won 27-22, I know that Kirk has taken different approaches depending on the bowl when you beat Mississippi State. Let's talk about that specifically because you've had great experiences playing in bowl games under Kirk Ferentz and staff. 23 out of Kirk Ferentz's 27 years at Iowa have gone to bowl games. I've repeated this many times on this show, and I'm going to repeat it continually. One of only 4 programs in college football the last 10 full seasons that the Iowa Hawkeyes, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, and the Iowa Hawkeyes, 4 programs with 8 wins or more for the last 10 consecutive full seasons. So Kirk has a pretty good system. Talk to us about what Kirk Ferentz's system, what did you experience at bowls as far as going out for events? Again, this ReliaQuest Bowl has been renamed from the Outback Bowl, your last game at Iowa, again, where you beat Mississippi State 27-22. Talk about some of the activities that you do or have done when you played at Iowa going into bowl prep, when you're there on site.
Yeah, first off, I just want to, touch on just, if you're talking about Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State, like that's the bluest of the blue bloods in terms of recruiting and, and no dig at myself, who was a former player, but our recruits are not the same caliber top to bottom as those guys get. And it's insanely impressive that consistently, there's no one else in the country who wins, week in and week out as much as we do over an extended period of time. Sustained success like that is extremely rare in any sport, really. But yeah, I mean, just going back to different bowl games, I was fortunate enough to play in 2 Outback Bowls, Rose Bowl, obviously. The Pinstripe Bowl in New York. A lot of different stuff, a lot of different styles of what they had for you during the week. But the Outback Bowl was a lot of fun. There would be stuff that the opposing teams would actually get together a couple times. So that's always interesting. What types of players from each teams are the guys that are loud and really enjoying the event, and who are the guys that are kind of reserved.
Any dust ups at all, Parker? I got to ask. Any dust ups? Any
No,
problems or not?
nothing, nothing, but it's, who's the guy that's gonna, get up and talk crap about bowling or whatever we're doing. There's always going to be guys like that on the team, and they might not even play in the game Saturday, but it's always interesting to see the personalities kind of come out.
Yeah, and that's everybody's talking about with Diego Pavia, and of course much was made last week when he didn't win the Heisman. Of course, then he issued an apology, and people are like, "Hey, is Pavia's posse going to get into it with Hawkeye fans down in Tampa?" And I'm like, let's just let cooler heads prevail, like you said, and let's just let it be handled on the field. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because you redshirted your freshman year in 14, but all 4 of your years when you played as a defensive end at Iowa, you went to a bowl game, as you mentioned, a pinstripe or Rose Bowl.
We did the year I redshirted as well. We played in the Tax Slayer, which was formerly the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville.
And as a redshirt, you get to go for that as well, right?
Yep, yeah, full. Yeah, they're on the trip. Enjoy a nice hotel in Florida as you're playing the scout team, getting beat on.
Well, even better than I thought. Then all 5 years you got to travel, even your redshirt years. So and something you brought up, I'm going to get to in the next segment about what you're up to these days. But talking about red shirts and development at Iowa, and not getting blue blood 4 and 5 star recruits. They're starting to get some 4 and 5 stars to trickle in at Iowa now against some of these other schools. But I think you bring up a very valid point I want to get to. But back with bowl prep, when we talked about, like you said, underclassmen, upperclassmen, what happens when you go there. But that's the thing I find fascinating is Coach Ferentz talks about this all the time. You want to have fun, but it's a business trip. And as far as we know right now, again, on Tuesday afternoon, December 16th, it looks like both rosters, nobody's doing the early opt-out. Even Pavia is going to play. So that is very interesting to see. So, again, you want to have fun, to your point, but it's also a business trip.
Yeah, I mean, the older you get, the more you contribute, the more you've kind of been there, and you're like, oh, this is the extent of the fun we can have. And it's a lot more fun if we win. So once you kind of have that perspective, that's generally the attitude going forward. And that's the attitude that the majority of the guys playing have going into a bowl trip.
Yeah, and that's what I love about you going as a redshirt freshman. You got to see firsthand, not just the coaching staff, but even the players giving you the example above you, saying, hey, here's how it's done, and you can follow by their example. So I think that's fantastic. It is definitely tradition at Iowa, and you're a living, breathing example of that at the University of Iowa Hawkeyes. All 5 of your years, you went to bowls. So, Parker, it has been great catching up with you. We'll come back for one more segment. We'll talk about what you're up to nowadays, and still looking at the NFL, and having been in the NFL the last handful of years, we'll update people on what you're up to these days. But I have something else I want to talk to you about that you brought up. I think is really a very big point that I want to drive home with Hawkeye football. So if you're ready for another segment, we'll take a quick pause and come right back. You ready to roll?
Let's do it.
I love it. Folks, there he is, Parker Hesse, former defensive end great for the Iowa Hawkeyes, now a tight end. Still possibilities in the NFL as a tight end, so we'll talk to Parker about that. I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back with more in just a few moments.
Hawkeye is brought to you by BettorEdge, your ultimate social betting marketplace. With no VIG, you're bound to win more on every bet on BettorEdge. Founded by Hawkeye alum James Siles and proud Iowan Greg Kajewski, BettorEdge delivers an unmatched betting experience. Plus, what's not to love when they're committed to supporting charities and children's hospitals near you? Join the action now. Sign up at bettoredge.com/Hawkeye and get $10 to start winning more today. BettorEdge, where your social betting means your bets go further and you win more.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Pleased as always to have this guy join us, Parker Hesse. Been with us throughout this run here on statewide TV over the years. Parker, if you would, for us, please update us on what you're up to these days. I know you've had a great run in the NFL. We've talked in years past where you've been with the Falcons, you've been with the Titans, you've been with the Lions. Update us on what's happening these days with you, and much traveled, but hey, very successful in keeping that string of Kirk Ferentz, former players in the NFL. That's another stat I want to bring up. I talked about all the 8+ wins in bowl games during Kirk Ferentz's era, and Hayden Fry for that matter. 2 coaches, Parker, in the last 45 years. How about that in Iowa? 46 years. but all the former Hawkeyes in the NFL, and you're part of that group. But the Hawks are always in the top 10 of former players in the NFL. What's Parker Hesse up to these days? Let our audience know, please, Parker.
Yeah, this last year since I was released last year, I've been staying in shape. Had some workouts last season. Unfortunately, haven't heard much. I've just kind of been like I said, been staying ready football wise, and playing with my daughters. So, but yeah, it's been a long year. So I kind of see the writings on the wall. I have not officially retired, and I won't officially retire until I start something new, just in case somebody I formerly played for has three tight ends that get a new strain of COVID or stomach bug, and they got to pick somebody up. But yeah, I'm already looking at the next thing. So any of your listeners that hiring in Eastern Iowa, give me a shout out.
He's willing, ready, and able-bodied, no doubt about it. But yeah, most recently with the Lions last year, it's been a little over a year. And of course, we know Sam Laporta out right now, had back surgery, and Jack Campbell doing big things. So I always jokingly call Detroit, Iowa City East right now with all the former Hawkeyes. But you brought up something in the first segment I want to circle back to. And I know you and your wife and daughters have, you're not in the Iowa City area anymore. You've gone a little bit out in the country, a little south of Iowa City. So I'm happy and congratulations to hear that. And so let's you and I talk a little bit, Parker, about Kirk Ferentz and what happens at Iowa. Because here's a prime example when you brought up about how successful, the tradition is at Iowa under Kirk Ferentz and even Hayden Fry. So let's talk about how when players come in, to your point about being a 3-star or less, and player development, which I think goes very underrated at Iowa, but is huge, huge. And you're a prime example of that. You got called in. You told this story years ago on this show, but I want you to repeat it, how you had a position change. Oh, not just a position change, but we're going to do what Linderbaum did and what Logan Jones did. 2 Remington Award-winning best centers in football came in on the defensive side of the ball, and they moved him to offense. You were the opposite. You came in on the offensive side of the ball, got moved to defense. But I love the way you told the story about thinking you got called in and thought you were in trouble, like getting called to the principal. But talk about that development and what happened with you at Iowa, very similar to Linderbaum and Logan Jones on the opposite side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, as as we all know, we alluded to, Iowa's development program, where guys come in and we practice, real football, blocking and tackling, pretty much day in and day out. But, that's what gives, guys the opportunities to keep working their craft every day and end up becoming the best football player they can be. And that's why you see so many success stories of guys who were, under recruited or weren't very valued coming out of high school, according to the rankings. And Iowa turns them into Pro Bowlers. There's plenty of guys that have hit that status, been high draft picks. So it's just kind of the culture. It's something that was established by the time I got to Iowa, and I was super fortunate both to be in that system from a coaching staff and then to have older players who had done it. I had mentors who were 2, 3 stars, no other Division I offers, and when I got there, they were studs. They were all Big Ten type of players. So it's pretty easy to sit back and watch. How did these guys do it? Because the playbook for it's right there in front of you.
Yeah, and I think that's imperative. But I love that when you said you got called in for the position change, and you were like, "Oh, am I in trouble? What did I do?" And they were like, "No, we just want you to change, positions. No big deal. Go from offense to defense." And you played both sides of the ball at walk-on high school and had a great run going to state playoff games and going to the Dome. But yeah, it's just funny that, like you said, that players just know. And you also highlighted this in shows past, and I want to revisit this too. That is why when I asked you why are Hawkeyes, former Hawkeyes, so successful in the NFL, and I thought you gave a great answer, and you were on with Jake Gervais, another great story coming up from rags to riches, won a Super Bowl with the Rams. But what is that like from your teammate, but for you and all the other teammates that make it to the NFL? Why do you think that is? And I love the story you tell about that.
Yeah, it's just about accountability. That's, when you show up to campus, there's just no one that's holding your hand, telling you, reminding you to get to class that day or do your homework or to be prepared for that day's install. It's on you. And that may be a learning curve, and some people don't always pick it up. But in the end, learning that responsibility, taking professional initiative, is what ends up helping guys, reach their full potential, have NFL careers, but ultimately just in life, whatever job, having that accountability is really what allows you to be successful in anything. Whereas, like, okay, you're a high recruit, we'll baby you, we won't make you practice hard just to keep you here and keep you happy. Those guys never reach their full potential.
And I love that. And I've had many of your former teammates and former players at Iowa say too, they've had coaches say, when are you finally going to get out of your own way and let yourself succeed? And you mentioned that about accountability and following the path forward. And I just think that's a great story to retell, that you learn it from the very second you walk on, take your first step on campus. And I've heard it, like you said, from even the greats like Tristan Wirfs, was like, there's nobody going to hold your hand and baby you here. You're either going to sink or swim. And like you said, some take to it right away and some don't. But I think that bears repeating. And in your case, that worked out very well for you. And you see, and I think that's the other thing you've always talked about on this show, about learning how to be professional, as you mentioned, not just accountability, but you see the right way every day is right in front of you, as you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's what our staff, demands of the players, and it's more and more rare thing in college football these days.
Yeah, it really is. Everybody's, hey, we'll pay you all this money, like you just said about, and you and I have talked about this, and that's another topic for another show. But we've talked about NIL and the way things are going, and at some point, where does it all end? But that's why I'm happy to report to you today, Parker, on December 16th. I know we're still a little over 2 weeks away from the bowl game, but highly unusual to talk about. Both rosters look like they're going to be intact and everybody's going to play and not opt out, because in this day and age, everybody's playing for the next money or the next opportunity. And this could be one of the marquee bowl games besides the CFP, and even some players, depending how that shakes out, may opt out. But that's why this is one of the marquee bowl games, because of both rosters look to be full and ready to go. And I know that's a lot different than even the 7 years ago since you left Iowa, how different the world is in college football since you left.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now you got whole teams that are opt out or unable to, because of the transfer portal, to play in bowl games. So, I mean, I think it's a testament to both Iowa and Vanderbilt that, whatever. And then, it's no doubt that's why they both have had successful seasons, that they've got a group of experienced leaders, whether it be seniors, juniors, the more talented guys on their teams, are committed to their team. They like playing football. So,
yeah, I just think that's fascinating. You and I have talked, the last handful of years back to back to back about how the world has changed every year progressively more and more since you played. And we're not talking a million years ago. We're talking 7 years ago. And my, what a different world it is, Parker. But, well, again, congratulations on the great family you and your wife and daughters have, and the new home. And keep us updated on any opportunities upcoming. And I'll update you if I hear anything from viewers, if of any opportunities. But still training and staying NFL ready. I love it, folks. There he is, former defensive end, great for the Iowa Hawkeyes, Parker Hesse, but also a former tight end, or still current, active, and looking for opportunities in the NFL as a tight end, not a defensive end. So walk on Iowa's finest, Parker Hesse. Parker, it is always great to see you. And again, an early Merry Christmas and an early Happy New Year to you and your family. Thanks so much for taking time out today for us.
Yep, thanks for having me, Dave. You as well.
Thank you so much. For Parker Hesse and Greg Kajewski at BettorEdge and BettorEdge.com, my production partners, and James Siles too. And to you, the viewers, I'm Dave O'Hara. And an early Merry Christmas and an early Happy New Year to you as well. Stay tuned, as Greg is going to join me next segment talking about all things happening in the predictions and betting markets. So back with more Hawkeye and me and Greg Kajewski in just a few moments.
More and more farmers are taking a look at Merchman Seed's Power Core Enlist corn. Here's Ben Pieper, our product manager.
PowerCore Enlist corn hybrids are the fastest growing traits in growers' fields right now. Farmers know that we are choosing the right hybrids for the right acres to put more corn in their hopper at harvest. Combine that with Merchman Seed's starting line seed treatment, growers are finding that high yielding consistency that they're looking for.
Contact your local Merchman Seeds dealer today and ask them about PowerCore Enlist corn from Merchman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Pleased to have this guy with us. You hear me mention his name at the end of every show each week. Greg Kajewski, my production partner, is minus James Siles today, his partner, but at BettorEdge and BettorEdge.com, at BettorEdge via social media. Let's talk about what's happening in your world at BettorEdge. You've had some new things come out at BettorEdge and BettorEdge.com. What's happening, Greg?
Yeah, first, thanks for having us. As always, it's great. It's crazy to think it's been a whole nother year as we wrap up December here, but it's an exciting time in sports world. Sports fans, sports bettors, prediction markets is the hot word. It's exactly kind of the vision of Better Edge. And not only do we have a sports first prediction market, we also have tons of cool new features from live betting, peer-to-peer parlays, all kinds of ways to get out there, make some good money, and obviously we're giving more money back to every single bettor with every bet you make. So exciting times, gearing up for all the bowl games. NBA is hot. I'm excited to watch, Iowa take on Vanderbilt and on New Year's Eve, and should be a pretty exciting game to see how the defense does against Vanderbilt.
Greg, the prediction market is so big, the cultural zeitgeist at South Park even had an episode this last year on prediction markets, if that means anything. But to your point about Diego Pavia not winning the Heisman, got second, made a big hullabaloo about it, apologized for it this past weekend as we record this on Tuesday afternoon, December 16th. But Greg, my thoughts here, give the viewers a little bit more of an insight again as to a prediction market or Better Edge, where you can social market betting place where you can choose your friends and bet online. No house, no juice, no vig, no percentages paid to a sports book or casino. Did I pretty much encapsulate it?
Yeah, you nailed it, Dave. Better Edge is really focused on connecting users versus users. So if there's fans, Hawkeye fans out there wanting to bet, we'll find Vanderbilt fans out there. We'll connect the two of you. You'll make more money and be able to take more winnings back into your pocket. That's really the core premise. We had tons of cool social features, from leaderboards to group chats, all that type of stuff that you'd expect from a new age technology. And then we ultimately wrap that all up into one cohesive experience, which makes it just that much easier to go make your sports bets and see exactly how you're doing.
But Greg, there's something that we haven't talked about yet, and we've talked about in the past. I think it's very important, especially in this time of year of giving. And we had Craig and Stacy Schrader on last week with Fight with Fives Foundation. Talk to us about your charitable endeavors, because yes, you're not charging a tax or a house or a vig, but you are taking the extra money, or users have an option to be charitable. Let's talk about that, please, Greg.
Ever since we started Better Edge, we had a desire to really give back to good causes, and that's through awareness as well as through charitable giving. So as you save money on the platform, we give you the ability to actually donate that back to great causes that we partner with. And then you can donate 30 cents here, 40 cents there. If you bet $100, you're saving about $9 on your bet. So you can donate that away, and we'll help get that to a great cause. So always just excited to be able to help great causes and really kind of give them more, especially at this time of year as well.
Yeah, and I think that's so understated, but I really want to repeat that, because that is just fantastic what you guys are doing. You've donated some very large checks to some very great organizations. So let's you and I talk as we close out here, Greg. What about that? I know it's still 2 weeks out, but do you have any action early yet on Iowa Vanderbilt? Supposedly, it looks like, as of right now, Pavia is going to play for Vanderbilt. Iowa, most of their roster is going to play. Nobody's opting out. Looks like Vanderbilt's the same way. Do you have any early action on this game coming in yet, Greg?
We're starting to see some action come in. Obviously, people are waiting with the see who's exactly playing for the lineups, but I see 5.5-point spread for it. It's going to be interesting. Vanderbilt's had one of the most high-scoring offenses throughout the year, and obviously Iowa's defense is extremely strong. So it's going to be a fun matchup. I think, Kirk made a few announcements, too, on the number of players that we play in, too. So it's cool just to see what he's done for the culture and allow for, players just to get excited about taking that extra rep and have a good trip to go play. So I think that'll give him a huge advantage, not only for, NIL and just kind of supporting, but then ultimately just team camaraderie going into next year.
Here's what I love, Greg. If a Hawkeye fan feels good about this, you can take the top 10 ranked Hawkeye defense against one of the top offenses in the country and do an over-under with some of these Vanderbilt fans. Create a bet as to how many yards Pavia will have passing or rushing. Also, will Caden Weegan bring a punt, kick, or both back? Will he catch a touchdown pass? Will he run one in? There are a lot of ways. I bring up all these scenarios, Greg, because you can create that bet, can't you?
Absolutely. And Caden Weegan one's been a fun one all year. Obviously, I feel like he just feels like he's going to return it every single time he touches the ball. So let's see what happens in the bowl game.
Absolutely. Greg, it is always great to see you. I mentioned it at the start of the segment. I know you're busy with family getting ready for the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, and the like. So an early Merry Christmas and an early Happy New Year to you and yours from me and mine. Thanks so much, Greg. It's always great to see you.
Likewise to all the viewers as well. And thanks for having us, Dave.
You're very welcome. And I was just going to say the same thing. Great words, Greg. I'll say the same thing to the viewers that I said to you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays. Enjoy this fun and festive holiday season. So for Greg Kajewski at BettorEdge and BettorEdge.com, his partner, James Siles, they're my production partners at BettorEdge and BettorEdge.com. And thanks also to Parker Hesse. I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye, and thanks to you, the viewers. That's all from me at Hawkeye. Thanks to all of you.